Welcome to another Nucida training session to get more familiar with Xray. Now, when I come back quickly to open this user story and try to view that, can I have a visibility to what test has been written for these requirements? So, the definition to test coverage or requirement coverage is all about whether the requirement is covered. You could have one test or multiple number of tests which showcase how many tests are written to complete that requirement. Concerning validation, a lot of people understand that requirement coverage or test coverage are different from each other. In fact, it's just the view. For example, if you're viewing it from the story and you have a test associated here which is telling you that what is the test coverage for this story. Similarly, if you're on the test and then you're viewing the related story there, you are calling it as requirement coverage. So, both are the same. It's just that. Which angle are you viewing it? Whether you are viewing it at the requirement level or the test level, it's just otherwise that. If you're looking at the requirement, you call it test coverage. At the test, you call it requirement coverage. So, let's get started and understand how to see the test coverage here. For example, if I go back and look forward to having my test here. And if I open a test window right now, where we don't have any kind of relationship established, we may not see any kind of coverage tab at all. But Xray supports coverage measurement including test coverage and requirement coverage. Right now, if you see I'm in the test and I do not have any kind of information, which tells me the requirement this test is covering or what is the requirement coverage for this test. Right. So, to get started, the very first thing you need to enable this as a part of your settings. And the step one is navigate to the project settings, and in the project settings you'll find a section called as apps, and under the app section you'll have your specific Xray section. Some settings and a lot of things are hidden here, and we'll be talking about a lot of them here in our tutorials one after the other. When we come to the Xray settings, we found the options here which enable Xray added benefits. For example, the test coverage defect mapping. You can define your test types, you can even declare your environments which you can use, you can define your custom fields, or even parameter value list, etc. There are a lot of many things here, which you would like to do, and a quick option is right here from the miscellaneous to do the same thing. So, we'll jump directly onto this tab called Test Coverage. And you would see the list of all tests or issue types which you have in your project right now. The Xray is asking you, which is your parent or the coverable issue type. Like for example, if I link a particular test to something, it should measure the coverage. What is that issue type which you would like to do? Now, number one example is of course to say that stories will be the ones which I will be covering through my test. In case you think you're even doing it directly as epic, or even if you're doing it at task level, you can just define it according to your organization structure for the project. Also, you can define your hierarchies according to that and they will take care of it. But yes, mapping them appropriately is something which you need to do here. You can pull out multiple issue types. For example, you can pull in epics. You can pull in your task or subtask. If you're doing it, you can even arrange them the way you want it, right? The point is that you must import all that, what covers or makes your requirement for a test. And when you go to this requirement this time, you will find a test coverage for that. Let's just keep it limited to one example and lightweight right now. You can come back here if you're building up the relationship. You can also say that issue link relations, what kind of relation would you like to have? There's an inbuilt relationship which is available called tests, right? And you can define what kind of, test should be used, like in Word is tested by, if you go to the test and say that. This is tested by this test, or this is testing, or test this story. You can define the issue, link type direction. If you use this out for relationships at the test level, you will be able to reflect the coverage. Don't worry, I know a few things may be just going out of discussion, out of understanding right now, but just keep in mind that what I'm doing here right now, and when we go to the test level and map the story back, you would find this relationship being established and to return back the coverage to us. Don't forget to save this, and when you save this, you come back, you will find some differences on your screen, right? Coming back to your backlog, and here we have the 3 tests which we have created, and I'll just open one of these tests. For example, this test which is MFP29 to test the consumer's UI UX. Let's click open this, and here we are trying to add a coverage measurement, the respective story, and we will use the option called as link issue. Right now, just to confirm, even after enabling the setting, there's nothing big which happens here on the screen. I would click on link issue, and I would use the relationship as tests, right? This is what I declared, that whenever I do an outward relationship at the test level, please recognize this as my requirement coverage. Right now, I'm in the test and I'm doing requirement coverage mapping, right? I'll drop down here and pull out that story which is developer. And the story is about the consumer to search items and place order. I'll just tag this and click on the link. That's it. I'm pretty much done with what I'm supposed to be doing. Let's go back, close this, and refresh the page 1 so that all my issues get refreshed, and then we'll pull in the story, which we just linked to. We should have a consumer story here if I just open this now. I would see some different inputs coming up right here, and I could measure the coverage. So, it should be. Let me just cross-check here that appears on the screen with the detail view, and it should give me a test coverage tab. If you see here, I have a test coverage tab. Here, I click on this window. And I have this Xray tab being enabled at the story level, which was not available earlier, and it says that yes, there is a test written for this requirement, and if you see, you are at the requirement. Thus, you say test coverage. If you are at the test, you call it requirement coverage. If you see here now, I got more input like you know. You can add test here, if you want to add it from existing test, or you can add new test set, or you can even create a new test right from here. If you want to execute your test, you can execute with a test execution or with a subtest execution, and right now it says it is not run. If you run this execution or this test is executed in a particular execution, it would update the status of this requirement with respect to test coverage and show the same. Let me just do a kind of bifurcating here, that what exactly an execution window could look like. I'll add something which is already tested or executed. I'll try adding a test which was executed probably earlier, and let me see if this is the test. Let me add here, and yep, let me refresh this. So, I'm sure that's something which has been executed already, yeah. You can see that, right? There is a test here which is already passed, but overall status is not run because this test is still waiting for some kind of execution. If everything is done, it will have a different status here which you can see from here. If you want, you can filter your test accordingly like the latest versions. Based on the project version and all, you can filter it out, or you can even filter it but by using test plans which the test belongs to, or the version which the test belongs to, and any specific environment. So, we'll be learning about, gathering the environments also here, and you can use these as filters. You can do that scope mapping that. If there's a plan and you have got several tests associated under that, you can pretty much bring output from there itself. You can pick up a test plan. If you got one, you could say which environment you have executed, then apply, and it will give you the output according to the condition which you would like to say. So, currently it is analyzing scope based on these 2 tests, and it is returning me not to run, then I'll just go back to another one. Let's just iterate this activity, and I'll do this time from the requirement doing the test coverage, right? So, I'll pick up this story which is the delivery partner, and I'll click on just because I enabled test coverage. It is having a window right now, but there is no test. There are no tests associated with this, and it says it is uncovered, right? So, you could see your own. You know how exactly the coverage is getting measured. When I had a test which was not executed, it showed me no run. When I have the, story with no test, then it says uncovered. That means there are no tests which are associated with this requirement. So, test coverage is nothing. All I must do is come back here and existing tests are here with me. I can just link it back and I would say, okay. This is the test which we have executed, or we have written for this, and it would just measure and tell me, yeah, this is okay because you have one test, and that one test is passed. And the status is okay, because you got the coverage, what you needed, and it says okay for that. Now, this also gives you the comparison of the previous example where we had 2 tests, and one was not run and second was passed, and it was giving me not run because it was summarizing the overall status. Right now, if I just have one test, it gives me pass status and the overall coverage measurement is okay because yes, it is covered, if in case, it was just one test. If not, it'll show one not run, or if there are no tests associated, it will show uncovered. This is how the test coverage can be done with help of Xray in your Jira with respect to the development story, you're written. But the only example or the only prerequisite to take care of this enablement is you should create a Xray test issue type, not a Jira story for test cases, right? Given that, you're using Xray, of course. You understand that. You would create a Xray issue type. But if you're managing all your tests as Jira story, then this may not be possible, right? Happy testing and see you next time.